first female lead, and they're here in studio with us today. Hi, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Take me back to your 9-year-old self. What was it like to try to convince adults that the girls should be playing?
Well, I was a little girl with 4 older brothers, and I would go to their games and look around and think, that sure looks fun, and I'd be playing in the backyard with my brothers and at the school field with them, and I wondered, why can't girls do this? Why are there no girls' teams? And it wasn't my parents holding me back, it was just the times that girls don't play soccer. And I thought, well, that's pretty bad. Why don't we get to play too? And then she was my friend. She's a year older, and incidentally, we haven't seen each other in 30 years until today.
Oh, wow.
And I heard, Carrie Rupert's playing soccer. There must be a girls' team. I'd like to try that. And my parents were quite happy to sign me up. And then we started to play, and at that time there were very few girls' teams. And in fact, when she started, she was a 7-year-old playing with 12-year-olds. There were so few girls playing. And we took it from there, didn't we, Carrie?
Yes, we did.
What was it like for you, trying to get your parents to let you out there?
For me, it just seemed like a natural progression. I had an older brother, and as soon as I was old enough to kick a soccer ball, we were playing together, and then next thing I knew, actually my mom traded in my dancing Saturday mornings for Saturday morning soccer. And so I just thought that it was pretty natural. It wasn't really until I became, a teenager that I realized that we were on the cutting edge of things.
Well, in 2015, it does seem so odd now to look back, but why weren't girls allowed to play? What was the holdup? You said girls just didn't play.
Well, there's a bit of a history to it, because I was just doing research for this for the little video I made. And in the 1920s and late teens, women's teams were formed out of the factories where women were working in World War I in the factories while the men were away. And these teams kept going, and they were very popular. And the English Football Association didn't like that, and it forbade anyone to cooperate with women's teams. You couldn't referee for them, you couldn't hold them in your stadium. So it was essentially banned in England for 50 years until the 70s, and that had a spread-out effect to the Dominion, which included Canada. So that stopped the growth of the game, yeah. And then just the 70s was a time of women making great strides in many areas of life, and it spilled over into sport, and then it's like, why not girls soccer? Let them have a chance.
What was it like for you guys being on that first girls team?
It was great.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, actually, yeah. Like I said, I started playing when I was 7, and I was small at that time as well, and so my teammates were a good foot taller than me and probably 40 or 50 pounds heavier as well. But not only my teammates, but also the opposition. So you learned quickly how to be crafty and how to get around players. So I think it was actually good for us, and then, when we got up into 12 and 13-year-olds, we started finally having the numbers to stay one age.
What kind of attention were you getting compared to the boys? You both said you played with your brothers. Were you getting the same kind of attention?
Well, in the first few years, girls soccer was very much under the radar, and I became aware that there was something called the Sun Tournament of Soccer Champions, which the Vancouver Sun sponsored. It was a really big deal. If you got in it, you were in the newspaper with a spread. There was something called a Sun Soccer Boy and his runner-up and his all-star team, and they got a spread in the newspaper. They played at Swangard Stadium, and there were not many stadiums back then, so it was a big deal to play in a stadium. They had Parade of Champions, and one of my brothers had played in it, I think, so I had some awareness about it. And then girls just weren't allowed. And then her team made it to a provincial championship before the Sun Cup decided to allow girls in, so they kind of paved the way. And in 1981, it was decided that girls' teams would be allowed to play in the Sun Cup, and we were very excited about that. By this time, we were on different teams, because she's a year older, and 3 teams from my town, Coquitlam, and the Blue Mountain Soccer Club, made it in the top 3 divisions, and we won the top 3 divisions, and the Sun Soccer Girl was a Blue Mountain Ranger, and the runner-up was a Blue Mountain Royal, and half the all-star team were girls, and we got to have the parade and the media attention, and I think the Vancouver Sun headline was something like, "Girls finally get their day in the sun." One of the local reporters wrote that our team convinced him that girls and soccer finally belong together, and just watching us.
Were you aware that you guys were breaking barriers at that time?
I certainly wasn't.
I certainly was.
Yeah.
I was pretty media savvy even then, and had a sense that this was big, and a few of my teammates with me were just super psyched about Swangard and that we were going to be allowed to play in the Sun Cup. And
what was that like for you when that was announced?
It was a lifetime high then, and it remains so now that we got to do that. And you may have seen some of the photographs of us where we're cheering so loud and happy. We were just so happy to be breaking the barriers, and it was so cool that we were doing it with 3 teams from
There's
our
the
club.
photos there.
There we are. That's 1982.
There you are on the right.
Yes, we're celebrating being the outstanding team at the second Sun Cup in 1982, and we're very happy.
Do you remember what was going through your head when you?
Well, I think we were all in the stand. Like my team was probably in front of them, and I remember this picture clearly. And it was in the paper, and I mean, certainly before today, when I saw Anne in person again, that's one of the prevailing images that I remember. Her and Caroline Melange over on the left.
Women's soccer now is on the world stage, and everybody's jazzed about FIFA. Have you been watching? What are your thoughts?
It's very exciting, especially to be hosting it here in Canada and have such a promising Canadian team coming, to the rest of the world, really. So yeah, it's been great to watch Canada. I watched some US and Australia. Actually, I'm from White Rock, so the Cameroon team has been practicing at the place where I retired. I played the last 15 years of my soccer career up until I was 48 in Semiamu soccer. And I actually started a over 30s team just when we were getting up to that point. We had the numbers to start an over 30s team, and now it's quite a developed league, right? And it's
yes, because all us pioneer girls are aging, and we're getting our 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Do either of you play in rec leagues? Or
I still play. I played last night, and
how'd you do?
We won, and we're on a 4-game non-losing streak. We like to call it. Yes.
Non-losing streak.
A tie and 3 wins.
Congratulations on your Quitlam Hall of Fame honor. That's fantastic, and I'm so glad you came in to share the story with us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you want to go watch FIFA games in Vancouver,
very good.
The next game is Tuesday, June 16th. It's Nigeria versus the United States. Then on Sunday, June 21st, the teams to be determined. And the final and championship game will be Sunday, July 5th here at BC Place.